questions at the end. So if you do have questions, please just remember them and I'll call on you at the end. We've got probably 7 to 8 major question groups to go down, and we will probably interrupt each other and have a debate up here, which will be fun. So we'll start with, and I'll preface it by saying that we're here to very much focus on the movie. I know we've got some different varieties of experience with the comic book history of Black Panther, and we may dip into that, but we're really going to talk about the movie mostly. So first question, what makes this movie unique? And keep it brief because we're going to keep hitting this, right? But just let's talk off the top of your head.
I mean, it's an all-black cast that's in a superhero movie.
Thank you.
That's it.
That's the correct answer.
We've all had 10 years of Marvel, and you know they've had black characters here and there, but this is a black cast. There's few black casts that, and the one thing I liked about it, I'm not going to go into it, but that's the biggest thing is that they're outside of the norm of what you would normally see an all-black cast doing. Mm-hmm. And so that, for me, is what makes this special.
Cool.
I mean, other than the fact that it is the first major Hollywood picture that features an all-black cast in this type of movie, it's also the first that I know about, besides Civil War, of course, that brings up a huge topic of, about conflict and different ideologies within the Marvel Universe that I've noticed anyway. So that's also something that I feel this movie broke ground on in particular. So yeah, that's why I think it's unique.
I think they covered it pretty good. I mean, I honestly, like I said to Robin earlier, I looked at these questions earlier this week and have not prepared. So I'll just stop there.
I've got sort of 3 more pockets of questions. One is, tell us how you feel that Black Panther pushed the MCU forward. We've all been with the MCU here for 10 years.
Yeah.
18 movies.
Basically.
How did this movie push us forward? Push Marvel forward?
I think that surprisingly, it's opened it up even more. Even though they've gone to different worlds, they've met aliens, they met gods, this still felt like it was opening up more because we weren't just seeing the same people. And yes, we had Guardians of the Galaxy, but Guardians of the Galaxy, even their heroes kind of also felt the same. For me, with this one, it opened it up not just the actual planet more, but it just felt like it opened it up more to the audience. Because I still enjoy Marvel movies. I mean, I enjoy the fact that, it just opened it up to where kids can actually see just not one character that looks like them. They can just see a bunch of characters that look like them. So that's the way for me that opened it up for the Marvel universe. And that's why I think with the second part after Infinity War, that's why I think it's going to bring in more of the more diverse characters, like the other Miss Marvel and Amadeus Cho, people like that. That's what I think. That's what I think it's doing. I think it is opening it up to the more diverse part of Marvel that we see currently, and that's what I'm looking forward to a lot.
Are they going to bring in Amadeus Cho?
I'm sure.
They do need to bring in some Asian and queer characters real quick.
I think that's what it's doing. That's what I think by bringing in black characters and saying, hey, we brought in black characters because, as you said, there's always the argument that no one wants to see a black face on screen, let alone the whole picture being black. It's showing that once you put the people that want to see it the most up on screen, we're gonna go see it. So if you're gonna put an Asian character on there, it's going to show Asian representation. Asian people will come out and see it. It's the same thing with Hispanic characters, the same thing with any queer characters. Once you put it out on the screen and you put it in a traditional or mainstream form, it makes them want to go see it. So there are people that never seen a Marvel movie, they went to go see this movie. Because it was showing.
Stereotypes.
Yeah. So that's what I think it's doing. I think it's opening up to bring in just a little bit more diverse characters in there and bringing in a little bit more challenging stories.
I feel like not only has Black Panther given us like it kind of, in a way, it kind of validates everything that we've been saying for years, as far as being profitable and things like that. But they've actually given us another team another team lead, basically, because everybody else in the MCU, I mean, whether it's Spider-Man, we don't have the X-Men yet in the same universe. We don't have the Fantastic Four yet in the same universe.
We just got some old Johnny Storms.
Basically. but because Black Panther's been introduced, he's a king. He doesn't need the other Avengers. He can handle an entire country himself. So the fact that he can lead the team, it's like, I can do this, but I also have other things I need to worry about.
Right.
I don't need to, like Hulk, he doesn't need to be incorporated in other movies because they don't feel like he can't carry a movie himself.
Right.
So that's how I feel like it's changed the MCU and comic book movies in general for the better. Yeah.
I'm now imagining Johnny Storm actors as like the first part of a Pokemon, and then they evolve into much more powerful Pokemon.
I hope so.
Black Panther took the power scale and the stakes to a completely different level. I mean, ooh, gods, ooh, super soldiers, ooh, technologists, head of state. That's a different scale of power. Sovereign ruler of a nation with the resources and support structure that he has. He's always been the most powerful member of the Avengers. In the books or whatever else. He doesn't have necessarily the flashiest powers, but he has so much more worldwide. I don't know how to pronounce the word because I don't talk, I mostly read, but it's that C-A-C-H-E-T, cachet? Yeah. But that, he has that. He can go someplace and there's an embassy waiting for him. And not because he's a member of a group of people who run around in their underpants, but because he's the king.
Yeah, I think that, what I love about that character, what I love about this is that there's a character who, the quietest character, the person who doesn't have to flash their powers, there's something to be said for that. And the idea that they've just been watching and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. You guys deal with this and we're going to sit back because we know we could, if we were to enter this battle, it would be over. And we're going to decide how to use our power. I love that. And I would just say this Civil War was a game changer in some ways because I think it was wrestling with a big world problem that is not dissimilar to what we deal with in our real lives. And I think in other Marvel movies have touched on real issues and done it in a different type of way, done it in a superhero fashion. But I think Black Panther was the first movie where they explicitly are talking about over-policing of Black communities. They're explicitly talking about the prison industrial complex. I mean, they're talking about diaspora. It was to be as open about something even as like slavery, to represent it visually and also talk about it. I mean, Marvel, I just kept sitting there being like, Marvel's really talking about that because Black people will talk about that, but there's so many white people who do not want to talk about that. And Marvel was like, we gonna talk about it.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah. Can I jump on what John said? Especially with the Marvel universe, it's always felt like it's U.S. U.S. just running roughshod over everybody. Sure. And they're just like, well, Tony's doing this, or Captain America's doing this, and all the Avengers, it always felt like it was just, this American group that's just running all over the country doing whatever they want. And now they're running into a character like, no, I am a king, and you're not, especially in Civil War, he's like, no, you're not going to do this. I'm a king, and I'm going to do what I feel like is necessary. So I think that's another thing that opened up outside of just the U.S., their politics, their president. It just took away from that, and it just opened it up to just the general countries. So.
And especially in the absence of Namor or Doom, they're the only superpower-backed government entity. Yeah.
Let me just jump on what you said. I can't remember if anybody's familiar with how like laws work. Is Black Panther beholden to the Sokovia Accords? Like, he doesn't have to follow that.
They didn't know the country existed, so why
they thought they were farmers.
And they said it even in the beginning. They never accepted money from anybody, so they never joined anything.
Yeah.
So that's the Sokovia Accord means nothing.
So he's potentially the only Avenger that can basically do as he pleases, you know,
At
as
this
it
point.
stands now. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah,
Thor
Thor
2
too,
plays one
but
alien.
he's an intergalactic being.
I just want to see someone talk like, can someone just talk to Thor about the Sokovia Accords and he'll just be like, what?
What's his?
And by the way, just as a pitch, because I gotta pitch the books. If you liked what Tracy was talking about, you should check out Christopher Priest's run on Black Panther from the late 90s and early 2000s, because that's like the whole thing. That is the whole thing.
Yes.
They've got him at the library.
If you're lucky enough to live in there.
Okay, so.
I have my own collection.
What are you guys, we talked a little bit about the different conflicts and how the diversity of perspectives, even within this one movie, is so brilliant. We could talk about all the different conflicts, all the different approaches. What are some of the conflicts that you think the geek community is still having about this movie, if they're there, or that you personally are having about this movie? Are there arguments that are still out there in the world?
I think that a lot of people think that this movie is just a one-off. Like, oh, this is just a little thing. They're pandering. That's the one that I hear the most, is that Black Panther panders. They're just pandering to these folks, and they're just like, it's just gonna drop off. It's not, especially I read in the comics, especially in the second week, it's gonna drop off by like 70%. No one's gonna go see this for the second time. It's not gonna be #1. So that's the biggest thing, and they were saying that because, and a lot of it, unfortunately, well, I think if you were black, you've seen enough comics. It was racial. And they were just like, oh, all those people that showed up, those people aren't going to show up again, or no, another set of people aren't going to come again. And I think that's what people are starting to realize it, because right now, this weekend, it'll be #1 for the 5th time, and people are starting to and people are starting to realize, like, oh,
It's
yeah.
But
I think that's the biggest. I think that's the biggest thing that I've seen, is that people just genuinely don't think that the sequel. They don't think that this movie is going to last. And I'm just like, this movie just made $1 billion. What are you talking about? But I think that's the biggest thing that I've seen, is that there are a lot of geeks, males, that are just like, this movie's gonna be good, and they have to figure out the fact that, like, hey, everybody's gonna go see this movie, black, white, whatever, doesn't matter. We're gonna go see this movie.
What are you gonna say, Austin?
Were we talking about conflict outside or inside the movie?
Either, I think stuff that's still existing, inside counts. I think
Okay.
stuff that's still in the dialogue.
Okay, well, just because I noticed a major conflict in the movie that parallels another MCU conflict in the movie. The conflict between T'Challa and Killmonger is timeless as far as, like, for example, Xavier and Magneto, I'm just gonna say it. I feel like it gives that conflict a run for its money, personally, because they're basically the same ideology at their core, like the peaceful way versus the violent way, or the radical way, versus the level-headed way. I feel like because we have that in the established universe, it kind of makes it so that we have besides Cap and Iron Man, we have two people that could be running that run countries. I don't want to give too much of the comics away, but it's the potential there for, like, to be in the sequel. The potential in the sequels, in, like, themselves, it makes me very excited for what's to come.
Because Killmonger's not dead, right?
Yeah.
There's possibilities for comeback.
That's the argument that we're about to have.
Someone on the Color of Fandom group had this perfect phrase: perennial resurrection. Killmonger is perennially resurrected in the comics. So yeah, that's definitely one of his tropes. There's no way to beat these.
I mean, I think for me the conflict that still lives on forums, threads, is Killmonger has valid points versus Killmonger was right versus Killmonger has valid points.
Yeah.
Because I think they're not the same thing, right? Like, somebody can make a good point versus he was right.
Right.
Really good point. But the first time we see Nakia, she's doing a very present day task.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
she's a spy.
she's a spy, but she's also liberating girls, right?
Right.
In a whole way, right? So she's walking the walk in her own personal way. That's the first time you see her taking action.
Mhm.
So I just wonder, like, if anyone wants to talk about that scene, because we do see Nakia jump. She's doing something so active and on her own at the beginning of the movie.
And that was specifically human trafficking, wasn't
Right.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think with her, I think they really wanted to show you that, yes, she's Wakandan, but she does not need to stay in Wakanda. She feels like she was, her experiences in Wakanda, because I don't think most people realize that, but Nakia is a princess. She is the princess of the River Tribe. And she decided not to do that role. She wanted to be something different, something what she thought was more. And so with her, she's liberating these women because she understands that the way women are seen in Wakanda, especially black women, are not the same how they're seen outside. They're not the same as seen in the U.S. or in Africa or in any other country that has been colonized. I can't say that word right, but sorry. But so she understands that. So I think that's another thing with her, is that she doesn't just want to be this princess role. She wants to be different and more. So when I saw that, they're like, oh, because they want to give her own story. They want to give her her own self. She's like, this isn't, Wakanda just isn't who I am. I'm more than that. And that's what I see with her.
Yeah.
For me, T'Challa actually resonated the most with me. I know that's kind of the uncool thing to say because he's the main character, but he really did, because of the simple fact that he has so much on his shoulders, and like he was operating off of what the past rulers had done, and that's generally the thing that a lot of people in power tend to do, so they don't, cause an upset. But when he found out what had gone down, he listened to his own morality, and he decided to make that type of change, a monumental change that would probably have a lot of repercussions, but a change nonetheless, and it was a necessary change, regardless of what kind of fallout would happen. And also going against what your elders taught you, because their ideologies don't fit with today's ideologies. And that's why it struck me a little bit, because for you to make that kind of decision, it's a lot to take on. And, respect to T'Challa for making that kind of choice.
So go into the ancestral plane and just be like,
yeah, basically.
Sorry, but with T'Challa, he also has to realize, with him, he now has to realize that his father, the one that he hero worshipped, made bad decisions.
Yeah.
Right.
Made these really bad decisions to make this villain. And so now he has to reconcile with the fact that this man that he hero worshipped made this really bad decision to this man that is his cousin. Like Eric could have been in Wakanda, living a better life, but he did it because he wanted to be in these rules and he wanted to live these traditional thing. So he has to reconcile with the fact that his father failed in that. And that's a really good thing with T'Challa. I really did like that about him.
Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted.
And for me, it was definitely Shuri. Like, from the moment that we meet her, it's obvious that she's the next generation. She's the future of Wakanda. Between all of her work in technology, and then the way that you constantly see her pushing the cultural envelope, the way that you constantly see her spoiling and playing that kind of like almost jester role of pointing out the pomp and the over ornamentation and the way that everything is just so beholden to the past. She serves as, she feels like a pivot point. As much as T'Challa is the one who's going to push this moment of change, it's Shuri's generation and the people of her age and of her mindset that are really going to take that country to whatever the next stories are. Yeah. Not that we're ever going to get to see.
I love that you said that, but I have to say, as soon as you said that, all I can think is M'Baku's speech.
Oh,
That's such traditional.
Yeah.
So, I think what I would say is I still, if you want to call him Killmonger, Eric, Indadaka, he really resonated for me. And I think that the moment, the library, or the museum scene.
Yeah.
The museum scene, to me, is so powerful. Just because if you've ever been, to really any museum, but in particular if you've been to the British Museum, it is, once you really settle into the idea that this is just the Dragon's Den, literally the dragon has gone throughout the planet, the globe, and stolen things, and is now hoarding them and charging a lot of money for people to come and look at them. I mean, like, so once you realize that, the British Museum becomes this very scary, very icky space. And so I love that scene. I was like, oh no. Like, as soon as they saw it, I was like, this is the British Museum, and what are they gonna say? And he says what I wanted to say when I was there, which was just like, you stole this. You stole all of it. And like, when you go there, they have the Rosetta Stone, and it just feels like, why do you have the Rosetta Stone? Like, that is something that humanity should own and have, possess, you know? So I just think that, for me, that moment with him was really huge. And I love, too, that you're contrasting him with Nakia. Like, our first scene with him was him taking action and what he felt like was fighting oppression, but it was by attacking the oppressor. And she was like, I'm not here to attack the oppressor, I'm here to actually sit with the people, like literally sit with the people and liberate them. And that's just like two different tactics.
Protect what you love.
And yeah, like it's a different
Like,
way.
and they see power differently. She sees power in helping people. He sees power by taking control.
Yes. Yeah.
So, yeah.
So what was your favorite line in the movie? I'm gonna start with John at the end.
Oh, it was Killmonger's last
Yeah.
words. Because I like feeling uncomfortable. It's like you know, it's like when you've got a sore muscle, but you stretch it, you're like, oh, that hurts, but that's needed.
It's needed, you gotta do it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Are these?
Can we curse?
That was my question.
I
That
was-
was my
yeah.
question. Can we curse?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Any children under 13? Yes.
Oh, sorry. Have you seen the
Oh,
Good Place?
sheet metal.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sheet metal.
Sheet or fork.
Yeah. Oh, yes, absolutely. Oh, shirt.
Shirt.
Oh, shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Okay, so my favorite quote had to be when T'Chaka said, "You're a good man, and with a good heart, and it's hard to be it's hard for a good man to be a good king." So yeah, I had to write that down. But yeah, I like that. I particularly like that line because it intrigues me to see what's gonna come after this movie. Because with anybody in a political position, you can't always make the right moral decision. It's impossible, like to keep everybody happy. So that just has me excited for what we're gonna see in the next Black Panther movie because it just recently got greenlit. So yes.
I think you're forgetting Infinity War Black Panther 1.5. That's good.
Yeah. AKA Black Panther and his little friends.
For me, it's probably the funniest line in the movie is when Shuri sees Ross for the first time. And she's like, "You scared me, colonizer." Died laughing. No, and also it's funny experiencing that multiple times in different groups. Like when you are in a majority of a minority space, people are dying laughing. When it's a little bit more mixed, it starts to like, and then when it's just kind of an all-white space, you hear that one chuckle, that's it, and then it's done. So it's just that one line. It kills me every time I see it because with Shuri, she doesn't, like you said with Shuri, she doesn't really have a filter either because she's one of those people. She's like, look, let's get this done. And so when she saw him, she's like, you care about his feelings. She's like, you're a colonizer. That's how she sees you. And I thought it was just funny as heck to me. I love it.
So you guys have already named like lines I really like. I would say for me, I'm just gonna. I never thought about this one until we're sitting here. But when Queen Ramonda says, "Show him who you are," like I really love that line because that just to me felt like. Yeah, it's just so powerful. It's Angela Bassett, so first of all, like it's that. But it's this moment where you're like, he might have lost if she hadn't said that. Like he needs the reinforcement and the support, and he so relies on the women in his life to be there and just like bolster and push a little bit here and like muscle him right back on track. And I just feel like that is such a Black woman thing. It's a burden and it's a blessing that's a role that you get to play for people. But I think that it just was a moment where I was like, yes, that is. Everybody has that one person, right? Who's like, I know you can be this thing, and I'm the one who will always remember it. And I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the visuals of the movie. If you guys could think about one, maybe two favorite images, and talk about the images of the movie, the ones that you're still sticking with you, still thinking about, or if you've seen it multiple times, you can't wait to see that moment.
For me, it's the opening, when they go right through the shield and you see Wakanda for the first time. And we're talking about going over the initial country where it's not, where there's not a city, but just going over the initial country and then you hit the city. Because you realize that, yes, they're advanced in technology, but they still have these farming families, these farming communities. So you can see even the farming community, they're like, this stuff isn't weird to us. They're on horses trying to race this aircraft, but just that initial scene just coming into Wakanda, and when Okoye says, we're home, I was like, oh my God, this is gorgeous. and then the waterfall fight. That whole, between Killmonger and T'Challa, well, any waterfall fight, really. All of it is just gorgeous because just seeing all of the people on the levels the first time, and you're watching that fight, and just seeing it is just gorgeous. The way that he filmed it, the way he slowed down at certain parts. But those are the ones that really just like, let's get to it. I want to see that fight, or I want to see the opening. Those are the ones I look for.
I like that. I like the establishing shot too. Like when you first go into Wakanda and you see this place that merges nature and technology so well. And like, no, to be real, I got choked up.
Yeah.
You don't see that. You before this movie, you don't really get to see stuff like that. Like it feels familiar yet alien in the dopest way possible. So it's
It was
just
a utopia.
yeah,
At least on the surface.
Well, in Marvel, like to see that there is technology that Marvel had not shown us before. We've had a decade of Marvel technology and Tony Stark with his things, and you're like, oh, look at his holograph, and you can touch and move around, and now you're like, okay, Shuri has some sand holograms. They come out of your beads. Like,
Let's talk about these blankets that are shields.
yes.
That was so cool! They had the blankets the whole time, and I was like, oh, I like that.
Yes, the blankets that were shields.
yes.
Yes.
I like shields. I play a lot of tank characters.
Yeah.
Sorry, go with
No, yeah.
What part?
Go with your part.
Yeah, John.
I am terrible because I don't remember what they were called in the movie, but it was the white gorilla tribe in the comics, Mbaku's Jabari.
Jabari.
Thank you. I like mountains. I loved when they were going up into the mountains and we were just seeing the amount of ecological diversity and just the different environments that were part of Wakanda. And then seeing how different but still connected their city, where they lived was. And I don't know what it was. I have no idea if there's actual historical, cultural thing that they grow out of it. All those sticks hanging.
The bamboo.
Yeah. In his throne room, I
Yeah,
think we can
yeah.
call that. That was just a really cool space, really well constructed.
His throne room, which was like exposed to the elements, like,
Yeah.
and he was just like, what I
He was
couldn't get
like-
over, he's just chilling, like he was. He looks cold
Yes.
as hell
Yeah.
in there,
And
and he's got fur, but his arms are out. He's like, he's comfortable. His thighs are out. You're like, well, he looks okay.
And he was cool. You could tell if you looked.
He was not cold. He had an inner fire. Inner fire.
But I think another opening sequence is when the Jabari tribe initially shows up.
Right.
When they
That's
come
my favorite.
out and they start doing that chanting, I was like, what is going on?
Well, the first-
and then they come out,
The first time it happened, I was like, drums in the deep.
so yeah, that was a great shot.
My favorite shot was the shot when I have two, and there's just we're talking here. At least for me, I'm talking about cinematography. Like there's some really beautiful choices, and the cinematographer's name is Rachel. Does anybody know her name? She's amazing. She's worked
Austin's
with
like to be
Ryan
introduced.
Johnson a lot. Or Ryan Coogler, sorry, a lot. Anyway, she's brilliant. But the two scenes when we're coming out of the ship and we see T'Challa walk out and we see his back.
Rachel
And
Morrison.
then, Rachel Morrison, thank you. And then you see him step into the water. So he's coming off of this futuristic ship that's amazing. And we've seen its capabilities. and then he steps into the water, and then the scene goes up, and then you see the warrior falls and all the different tribes and all the colors and the music, and you see the bodies moving and cheering and dancing. And I was just like, to see that technology and to see the black body on display in the technology, but then to go up and see all the colors. And in that moment for me, I was just like, oh, this is black as hell. Like, I was like, they got colors, you know, they dancing, you know, like there's singing, there's joy, there's so much movement of bodies, like it's chanting, it's like liveliness, and it's all of those technology. I thought that was gorgeous. And then the other one is when Eric is on the throne and the scene flips and rotates. Like, the first time I saw that, I was like, that's kind of a cheap trick, but it's not. It's beautiful. So beautiful, and it's such a good way of showing us we are in a different place now. We have now transitioned. This is not the same world. You're about to see some things that have never been probably said in this room, done in this room, and you can feel it. So then by the time he comes in, he sits down, he's half dressed. Like, I don't know if you guys noticed that.
He's dressed appropriately.
He's dressed.
Fully dressed. It reminds me of like how somebody from America would
Like
be
he got
in
his,
an
like
African
his house
film.
shoes.
It's like this is. I feel comfortable right now.
No, like he was like, this is dressed enough. And so he comes out, he sits down, and his chest is out, and then you have Okoye, and you can just feel the discomfort rolling off of her, like how she sits, how she talks. You're just like, she is off kilter. I just love that.
In that scene, was he already wearing the necklace?
Yeah.
Then in that case, I'm sure he felt he was perfectly dressed.
That's
He felt he was
true.
sufficiently dressed.
That's true. That's